The Ensemble podcast is intended for professional financial advisors. All discussion is limited to publicly available information and should not be interpreted as legal, professional, or financial advice. Ensemble does not hold an AFS license nor provide any financial services. Before making investment decisions, you should obtain financial advice from a qualified financial advisor.
Hello, my name's James Wrigley. I'm a financial advisor and one of the principals of Melbourne-based financial planning firm First Financial. I've been a long-term listener and contributor to the Ensemble group and podcast, picking up some amazing nuggets of gold over the years. And through this podcast and the people that I'm able to speak to and interview, hopefully I can continue to deliver some of those nuggets of gold to you.
Intelliflo is on a mission to give more people access to financial advice. Their technology, Intelliflo Office, powers and streamlines the advisory experience for over 30,000 financial advisors worldwide, making an impact at every stage of the advice process, including practice management, revenue management, cash flow modelling, client portals, and more. Intelliflo Office helps advisors manage all their client and provider data within a single integrated ecosystem that just works. Discover Intelliflo for yourself by visiting intelliflo.com.
Hello, welcome back. I'm James Wrigley. Thank you for tuning in for another episode of the podcast. I have the pleasure today of speaking with Dawn Thomas. Dawn, I've followed you on Instagram of all places for a long while. I love your videos and your cooking and your trance music. I love it. Dawn, you're at Wealth Designers. Thank you for joining us today on the podcast.
Oh, thank you for having me, James, and supporting the trans movement. I'm very much connected to that.
We're going to talk today about finding your forever home as an employee in financial advice, whether you've been in advice for a long while, whether you're going through the professional year and finding your way out the other side of that. Dawn, you've worked in a few different businesses and found your home, found your voice, which is fantastic, and hopefully you can share some of that with everyone today.
Yep.
Maybe Dawn, if we start with where are you at the moment, and what's your journey been like to find your forever home? You used the phrase forever home before.
My forever home, and telling you my dating history. I'll tell you my dating history. I'm willing to go there today. So I am at the Wealth Designers, and I found my forever home, which has taken a while. Like I think as an advisor, coming from the banking background, and I know this resonates with a number of advisors who were around during the Royal Commission, and how banks, what it seemed like abruptly kind of shut us down, and we became part of the plague. We had a lot of pride in what we did. We loved our peers. A lot of us loved the banking environment with, just so much urgency and teamwork, and and it made us, I think, a number of us think about where do we go from here? If I suppose what you were doing before was sort of what you wanted to do, and then that abruptly ends. The bank sort of said,
yes.
In a way they said, it's not us, it's you. I don't know, to advisors. They broke up. That was probably the initial first long-term breakup that I did not see coming. And I felt like I committed myself 100% to that. And I was managing a team of advisors. So I had gone that linear route of bank advancement where you go from like a grad to an advisor to a business advisor, and then you are managing advisors, right? And I always believed in amplifying the impact of advice. I thought banks could do that if we had the right intentions. Like we could get out to more people.
Yes.
And I was so proud of what we did. I remember what we did as advisors. And I thought the bank could be a vehicle for that as well as female empowerment. So that ended. And then I went into the SME space. And when you go into that space, I must say that, leaving the bank in that state, if like a relationship, you don't actually know what you want. I wouldn't say it's a rebound, but you don't really have time to think about where you want when you go to the next relationship. And you grow from that.
Find another job to go to, don't you?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. If you don't really know what you want, it's a bit hard to look for it. And I had a really amazing boss for over 4 years called Jamie Luxton, and he helped me find my voice. And if you're aware of, with bank advisors, we're not really encouraged to go on social media and be outspoken because there's a lot of rules, right? We have to stay within a box. And he gave me the space to just be you, and I did that. And it was nice just finding out who I was, getting to know what my voice was over that time and experimenting with content. COVID came around, which was great because I think a lot of us tried with different content styles since we couldn't be in person in places. And he was really supportive of that. But then you come to a point of going, do you want to take this to the next level long term? And whenever we talks about equity and how is it going to be long term, I think for me, I started to get a sense that I wanted something different. And that was the journey of, going to another place and then finding out that, again, it was not what I realized. I didn't like that traditional sense of financial advice. I also noticed that with my peers, and even I love watching your content. I love that you're taking a video and you're on the walk somewhere. Yeah. I'm like, where is James now? And he's talking about superannuation. I'm like, oh my gosh, I should just do what James is doing. But I'm so like that bank side where I'm like, oh my God, compliance. I need someone to check what I'm saying before I go on the video. But I love that bit of just being yourself and then experimenting and a collaborative environment where advisors are not pitted against each other. I feel the traditional sense of advice is dog eat dog. There's no encouragement or incentive for you to help someone else because you've got to look out for yourself and your numbers. And I am a team player, right? Like I'm a leader, but I'm a team player. I want everyone to lift up together. And that's how I found the Wealth Designers with Troy McMillan and Cara Graham. It was like a 1-2 punch because Troy, I've always been had a soft spot for. Saw him in the 2019 AFA roadshow, and I saw him and Cara up on stage, and I had that WA pride, and I was sitting there going, I don't think I'm worthy enough to be a part of their business. I remember sitting in there going, I'm in awe of them, but I didn't think that I fit into their business because I'm too I'm a bit. I thought they were really serious and smart, and I'm just not. I'm more into my trance and into cuddles and stuff like that. Yeah. So, but I didn't know that Troy had been having his eye on me to join the business, but we never exchanged that sentiment.
Okay.
Because he said he's not in the business of poaching advisors from businesses. And the other part of it was Cara and each other from the AFA Inspire group. So we would catch up anyway. And then she told me she was pregnant and she was having a lot of trouble finding someone that could look after her book while she went on leave for 12 months. So she used the baby angle to kind of squeeze me into pushing me over the line. Soften me up. She's like, Dawn, the way she said it to me was, you don't have to say anything. I'm just throwing it out there into the universe. I think you'd be an amazing fit. So between the both of them, James, I ended up at TWD and I first went, okay, is this all it is? Because sometimes you go in and are you going to move past the dating phase and actually find out the real crux of the relationship? And it's not really all that. And for me, I immediately had a sense that it was my advice home. I'm just short of getting a tattoo of TWD somewhere on my body, but it's under review. But I've landed.
Yeah. And so how long have you been there now?
So I've been there a year.
Okay. Right. So it's still reasonably new in that if we use this analogy of the relationship, but you well and truly feel like you're home.
You're home. I mean, you know how it is. If we're going back to dating analogy, when you've had an experience over a while and you fine tune what you want, and you meet the right setup, and it doesn't mean it's the perfect setup without challenges, but it's perfect for me. I'm sure my husband would say that I'm not a perfect person, but we're perfect for each other, and we work through the challenges.
Yeah. So how can others, can you share a bit of wisdom for others that are going through the same thing? They're sitting in a business where they don't feel like they can be their true self. They're not enjoying it. They're getting that the Sunday scaries going, oh no, I've got to go back to work tomorrow morning. I suspect you don't get that. It doesn't sound like you get that. You kind of bounce out of bed on a Monday morning and I'm off to work.
Yeah.
How do we encourage others to find their own home, look outside of the four walls that they're in? What can people do?
Look, I think it starts with, first of all, community, because you need to get to know the advice community, right? So podcasts like this with Ensemble, going on LinkedIn and connecting up to people that you resonate with their content, I think firstly starts getting you an idea of the kind of advice practices out there. Because if you stay within your four physical, the walls, right, that physical environment, I think some people even get disillusioned with financial advice. They might say, financial advice is one way. When we know financial advice can be served in many, many different ways, right? And it can actually serve so many people. As an advisor, if you're your authentic self, you're going to draw the right client towards you, because it's really about people. It's about two people connecting and being on a journey to get ahead financially, right? And reaching the goals. So that first thing you said, if you're sitting in a place where you don't feel like yourself, you don't feel like you can have an honest chat about the flexibility you might need because you are balancing off, life commitments. Everybody has life commitments. You're afraid to even just bring things up, then that's first of all, a sign that it's probably not the right place for you. And it's just what you want to do is grow your community, look at what's out there, and then start talking to people in the community as well. Because that time when you leave, like, you don't want to be looking for a job when you've had enough, when you actually had a gutful. You kind of want to leave on your own terms. Like, you don't want to leave when you've actually got nothing left in the tank. So it could even be a year. It could be a 2-year process before you actually move. But when that time comes where the right opportunity lands, you want to be ready for it and rejuvenated for it. So even if you're put up for job interviews, you can gauge the culture of the company by asking really the responses of the honest ones you want to ask. So if you're saying, for example, I've got a 4-year-old and I need to get back in time to pick them up, right? You should be able to say that at a job interview. If you get a response that is not great, that's not a good sign. It's the truth, right? You might as well test it out if you're thinking about a dating phase, you're sitting across somebody having dinner. Not that I've dated that much that way, but you want to be really upfront with what are the key things you need to be able to do your job well, and then be able to also, really look into the company that you're at. A job is not a job. I feel the different financial planning practices that are very successful have a philosophy and a way of life. So does it fit in with you? Do the values actually connect? So it's not just a marketing exercise of these are our values. It's like when I went to the Wealth Designers, Troy genuinely gets me. Troy genuinely gets how nuts I am. And he does not want me to change one bit, right? He just tells me, please don't stop having your ideas. Because I'll say, Troy, I've got another crazy idea. I was driving to work and I had an idea. And he's like, don't stop. Just keep on having them and we'll create a space for that, So I think that if you're in that stage where you've noticed that you're not feeling like yourself, grow your community, be honest in job interviews really from the start. Don't be afraid of, I'm not going to get the opportunity. We know there are so many opportunities out there. I think that might have a reverse problem now where you might have too many opportunities as an advisor or as an associate. So really be honest and bring your true self to those interviews and tell them what you need. That would be a good start.
I get the feeling just from others that I know that have been in, and like the business here, the people that have left at different points in time, maybe there's a feeling of, if you're not, because you don't know what you don't know is the first part. And so your point about and building the community and just talking to other people, you might not realize how things are in other businesses. You might not actually be that unhappy where you are, but there's some amazing things that people are doing in other businesses that really excite you and you really want to go to. Yes. I also get the sense from talking to different people at different events and so forth, that there's this perception that, well, if I'm not terribly happy where I am, that I actually need to go and do it on my own. Do it.
Yes.
Go and set up my own financial planning business and do it myself.
Yes.
You obviously haven't gone down that route, and I'm sure you possibly could, but we're talking about being an employed advisor. Do you want to talk about? Do you have any comments on this idea of going and doing your own thing, which I'm sure is a whole lot of work, versus trying to find your home in an established business, but finding the right home that allows you to flourish and be yourself?
Yeah, I feel like I'm an advocate for employees, forever employees, maybe if that's the case. Because a number of times someone has told me, set up your own business, because they're like, Dawn, if you want to do the stuff you want to do, set up your own business. Look, I've got 3 kids, right? I'm also studying part-time. I really don't want to have more meetings than I need to, in a day to talk about things that are non-client related. Like, I'd rather just focus on my clients and then focus on the things I want to do for the profession, whether that's my study or my advocacy work through Inspire for Women in Advice. Like, I know now at this point in my life that I've got a set amount of time and I can only kind of do it in the things that I want. I think business ownership is not right for me right now, but I feel that as an employee, you want to be able to find a space where, first of all, they understand you, because you can be in an environment where you can be championed for the great stuff you have, or be shamed for being who you are. Like these are environments that exist at the moment. And I just feel for those people who are shamed when all of us really have strength. In the advice profession, there's a whole suite of skills that we need. Not everybody has everything, and we're all constantly learning. So first of all, can you bring that to your workplace and say, hey, I'm not great at this. Can I get the help for it? And I am very honest about my points that I wouldn't call it as weakness. I say my growth areas. And I'm also aware of my strength, right? So I judge a workplace as well by how safe it is for me to raise the things that I'm not sure about, because I do want to get better in these areas. And as an employee, given that opportunity within my roles and my areas of growth to feel like I'm valued matters, but also having an ability to mold what the business is doing without necessarily having ownership. And that's why, like the partners at the Wealth Designers are very open to the conversation. Like I said, like Troy gets me, which not many people get. I think with you, it's well, James, I know with your content, not everybody gets what you do. So you really, really value the people who actually, the brave wavelength. But then it's the other support, like getting the advice, building up your technical skills in certain areas you're not familiar with. So, as an employee, you can do a lot. You can be a part of an industry association. Like I said, I made it as a national chair, and I felt very unworthy when I went on there. I was like, how do I compare to Kate McCallum? Like, Kate McCallum has her own business. She's written a book. Like, she's amazing. Who am I? I'm just like an employee from WA. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You have a passion. You can lead. You don't need to be a business owner. And if you have a family, 4 eggs, like I do, you can still do a lot of what you want to do without having business ownership. I think that's what I've learned in this journey.
Yeah. And you're the, like, as much as you almost got a bit, there's a bit of self-doubt in yourself, like, who am I? Am I worthy to be this person?
Yeah, that's right.
I've seen, articles of you in different magazines and stuff for years. And like, oh, wow, look at this stuff that Dawn's doing. Look at her bright purple hair and all the rest of it. Like this, there's people absolutely in the industry that are looking up to you and going, oh, wow, look at all the things that she's doing. I don't feel worthy of being on her team. There's absolutely going to be people like that out there. Do you want to talk a bit about kind of finding your voice and bringing your authentic self? Like, you mentioned about being in the bank, and I suspect, not that I ever worked in a bank, but I suspect being in a bank environment, you had to do certain things and follow certain guidelines and maybe look a certain way and talk a certain way with clients. Was it somewhat constrained in you and your personality versus I imagine there's been an evolution of you bringing your full self into the advice industry. What's that been like?
Look, I think internally in the bank, I was very much myself, but I just never expressed it externally, never used social media. And I must say that within the bank, I think that's why I say when I did enjoy times in there, even though there were challenges, I was recognized a lot by not only my managers, but senior leadership in the bank, because they got this weird sense of my approach to advice. Because I don't think I know how to turn up to work without being myself. Like I have to, I don't think I could do that. So, I arrive and, you go out with, let's say your regional bankers, the bankers that go off and see farmers. I'll be like, hi guys, I know nothing about farming, but we build our bond. I hop in their car, I'm with them for 12 hours. I'm talking to farmers who know that I'm from Singapore and know nothing. They all have a laugh at me with certain things I don't know. But it's just like, look, I can't hide that I am different, even visually, even, being a woman of color, being an immigrant, the way I sound, everything is different, right? And even if you weren't all those things, everyone is different anyway. So that was received, I never had an issue with it in the bank, though there were groups of people that had an issue with me being accepted for it, because I think they were used to, they did this a certain way. How can I be doing things another way and then getting recognized for it? And it's not like I was doing anything on purpose. It's just that you're showing up and being yourself. I always felt safe to go to senior leadership and give them my feedback, because I never felt like, I'm a low-level employee, so I can't talk to you. I'll just be like, I'm going to give you feedback on my end for my neck of woods. Maybe you don't know what's happening. And in branch world, with banking, your team is actually the branch, so I had to make it interesting for them. I guess I've been doing financial literacy from day dot, because I'll have a group of people who did not know much about TTR, didn't know about this, that, and you've got 5 minutes in the morning to pitch to them why it's important for someone to see a financial advisor. So I found my skill set as an arts graduate. Maybe that's where the doubt comes from, because my undergraduate degree is a media degree. That came in very handy with all the communication pieces that were needed in the bank.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but stepping out of it, James, that was the other bits. That voice more openly and being like trying out LinkedIn more and then venturing into Instagram badly, that came after the bank, and that came from just being able to go, the shackles are off now. No one's watching you with what you put on. You don't need really approvals of what's going to be said. Yeah.
Yep. So you mentioned before that you're doing some studying and inspire advocacy work within the industry. What are you studying? What are you up to at the moment?
Yeah, so I'm doing a PhD part-time studying the superannuation journeys of Generation Z. So that is an area that I'm very passionate about. I think young people have the benefit of long-term investing, right? They have the benefit of time. So I'm like, why would you not use that? Yes. If you don't want to wait till you're 40 or 50 to find out that you had the benefit of time. So that's the stuff that I teach my kids, and that's the stuff I want to research. So it's very much in line. And Troy gets that as well in terms of the wealth designers. It's very much in line with what, everything's in line, right? So I took a break for 2 semesters when I joined the wealth designers, just to be able to ensure that all the client transfers were going well. But I've been in touch with my supervisors, and we're picking up everything again, because as you can imagine, it's quite intensive having to do all the academic reading to put through things within deadlines. Otherwise, I get kicked out of the course. And the other thing exciting around the studies is that there's something called the National Industry PhD Program that's just been launched this semester, where people who are in industries wanting to do PhDs can get a scholarship where both their workplace and the university are actually paid funds so that they can help support the candidate who's actually doing the research. Yeah. Ben Nielsen's all over it. He's my buddy with helping me out with all of that. So I even know with the wealth designers, Troy, essentially, when we apply for that scholarship for me next semester, Troy will essentially be sitting as a supervisor from the industry side, the wealth designers, and working with, in a way, the university. Yes. And I think that's so powerful. Like, wouldn't you want to get your name behind? Like, I didn't think he'll be excited by it, but he is pretty excited around it. So that's what the study is doing. And it'll probably take, I would say about 4 years for me to complete it, because I'm doing it slowly. And then in terms of Inspire... Oh, sorry?
I was going just on the studies. So what are you hoping that will come out of it? So did you say Gen Z? Did you say?
Yes.
What generation did you say that? Gen Z?
Generation Z.
Yeah. What are you hoping will come out of the studies that you're doing? Will you, like, you have to do a whole lot of PhDs and all the rest of it, or thesis, but do you think you might be able to leverage that into the advice that you're doing, teaching for schools or something? Like, what do you think might come out of it?
Look, I approached it in a way that we're not going to get enough support as an advice community to be able to help young people, right? Even I am disillusioned on that front, that we're not supported enough as a profession. So I want it to be clear for superannuation companies as well as employers on how to support young people when they are going through their first superannuation journeys. And so as we know, with super stapling and the removal of the income test threshold for super guarantee, someone as young as 15 could end up with their first super fund, and then it stapled them till they finally decide they want to look at their superannuation, right? So for me, I'm like, this is the main part of our retirement system. I understand that the government is having to approach it in a very passive manner, because our system is passive, and people are passive because its system is so complex. And that's why we have a job as advisors. But it's just, we need to give them better support. So my first round, I had a mini research round as part of the integrated part. So people who don't have a master's by research, I've got a master's by coursework. You've got to do like 1 year of units where you're doing many components of a PhD so that you can demonstrate to the university that you can tackle the PhD. And we ran a survey for about 100 Gen Zs on their superannuation experience. And whether they were from a private school or whether they were from a public school, they felt like there was no education really provided to them or support. So it's not like they didn't think it was important. No one's really talking about it. And if we know about their parents are probably not that comfortable to have the conversation with them. So I'm just hoping that this research just, first of all, really outlines the experience of Generation Z. Just because they are a young generation, we don't have a lot of research in that area. And then we're going to be able to find ways to better support them from the schools, from superannuation funds, from employers. Because I think about 50% had employer-selected funds. So yeah, that's the hope. Maybe we can change the outcome of a whole generation.
Yeah, that's incredible work. Because when I think back to my first job I worked in Kmart. I had a Rest super fund because it's the retail one default, and you said like it's stapled now, isn't it? So you understand why they've done this stapling thing to try and avoid people having multiple super funds and money getting lost all over the place. But you really are locking a 15-year-old in that works at McDonald's into that superannuation fund, good, bad, or otherwise, and only time's going to tell whether it's been a good one or not.
Yes.
For probably the best part of 20 to 25 years before they get into their mid-30s or 40s, and they go, actually, I should start to think about this money stuff a little bit more. And that's a huge time frame that someone could have been stuck in a poor one versus a good one. Never thought about it until you're sharing it with me.
No, I know that our retirement system is slow to adapt to what the current needs are of the population, right? So the way I look at it is that, okay, we've got to work with what we have because we know it's not going to change overnight. It's a very slow, as much as people say superannuation changes all the time, there's chalk, like, no, it changes very slowly over time. And even though we look at young people, I talk to my children about the FIRE movement, and also less reliance on your job dictating your ability to retire well. It's more about what you do with the money to be able to invest it long term. That will give you choices through life in terms of living towards, really, if you think about your authentic life. I've been raised in that bit of you work in a one job till your 60s and you retire. That's what my parents did. So that's what I've learned kind of way of approaching it. But for my children, we understand this new generation differently. They are value driven. From the surveys that are coming through, they're very value aligned. They are pushing employers to look at work differently. They want the world to be a better place. So why not? If you are wanting to drive change, your money in superannuation can drive change through ethical investments, for example, if that's your thing, right? If you feel like that compounding effect over time, salary sacrificing over time, but if you don't get them engaged, they don't actually know what they're missing out on. So, and even though we're saying, okay, the superannuation is there, they're going to get it when they're 60. Look, at some point, they're going to reach 60. I understand it's not a perfect system, but you really want the funds that are funding you from 60 onwards to be sitting in a tax-effective environment. So, go live your life up to 60. Nobody's telling you not to holiday at 30 and have, find yourself in Spain. Go do all those things. But from 60, at least you know that pot of money is actually working for you.
The advocacy work in the industry was the other bit that I asked you, but that studies is quite interesting what you're going through. So Inspire, I've had a chat with a few other people that have been involved with Inspire, but so you're the WIE chair. Were tell us about Inspire.
Okay, I'm the national chair. Very in terms of of AFA, and I know AAA is part of the process that we are doing the project work on. What is that shaping up to? So at the moment, I believe I'm still national chair. But what that is like, so I have the state, chairs are New South Wales. We've got Amy Baker, Annie Fordhams from Queensland. We've got Jasmine Tekop from Victoria. And then currently in WA, we have, I suppose that's not filled at the moment. So already with Inspire and just even with the chairs, I feel like I work with super women, like amazing, amazing women. I get so inspired by them. And further that, they've got committees with furthermore inspiring women. And our job is to bring together, women in our profession, not just advisors, women who are wanting to be in here, even people of diverse groups, and really making them feel seen and heard and making sure that we can all grow together, into this future together, just making sure they understand they have a place here, they're valued, and we want to work together as a profession to help them find their place as well.
Yep. How did you end up getting involved with it all? How did that happen?
That's a good question, James. It's all the part of life, just accidentally rolling over to the next. So part of
I thought that's what you're going to say. Life twists and turns, and you ended up there, because that seems like everything that's happened to you up until now. That seems like how it's evolved. You just go with the flow, and
I go with the flow.
And hey, you have a good time.
It's all a trance festival, James. You know, you put on Tiesto for like an hour or so, and you just go. So this is the way. Like, you firstly, I believe in say yes to the universe, right? Things are thrown at you.
Yeah.
And yeah, it may not always work out right, but that's fine. You always got something to learn. And when I left the bank, that's when I started actually entering myself into awards. And I know women as a whole they feel actually, how do you put it? We feel immodest if we first of all talk about achievements. And secondly, going to awards, you're almost expecting someone to go, hey, you're worthy to go into awards. Please enter yourself, right? I had mentors at that point and stuff. And I just went like, look, I felt like a phoenix rising from the ashes after leaving from the bank. You know, after that, I was just like, you know what? I'm not going to have anyone nominate me. I'm just going to nominate myself. And I'm not going to I don't even care about it, right? So it started with that process of entering myself into awards. The self-reflective piece on it, when you put in an application, is amazing. You know, you start really taking ownership of what you've done over the years. And I started in 2017. And in 2019, I won the Female Excellence in Advice Award. And that put me in touch with AFA. The AFA did such a great job with just putting me in front of opportunities to use my voice. And then I've kind of run with that and done further things with that. And from that year, because technically I've been a winner for 3 years, James, because of COVID, the longest standing winner.
Yes. The longest standing winner.
Longest standing winner. So they could see, I suppose, more of my voice coming through from winning that award, getting the platforms, using the platforms. Then I was approached by AFA to be the national chair. And yeah, the first thing was like, are you sure you've got the right person? I'm not sure you've got the right person. Are you sure you want my voice? You know, I asked that. I'm a bit weird. Do you want me speaking on behalf of the AFA women? Because I don't know if you want that. And they assured me, they just wanted me to be me and to do that. And I'm so grateful that they've asked me to do that, James, because I wouldn't have pictured myself in the role. And it's been such a giving role. And I think there's so much more work that we have to do.
We'll start to draw the conversation to a close. But one thing that you just said there, and it's clearly what's gotten you to where you are. And I'm often saying it to some of the younger guys here. Just say yes. Like, things will come your way over time. Just say yes. It might be scary. It might be frightening. Like, you're doubting yourself. Am I worthy of being the national chair? Absolutely, you're worthy of being the national chair. Like, who doesn't want to, listen to you speaking at different events and so forth? But it's just this say yes. Like, don't let the fear of something get in the way. Say yes. Worry about what you've said yes to later on, but say yes and take up that opportunity.
Yeah.
That seems to be something that, a guiding principle of sorts that you've been living by. And look at where you are now.
Oh, that's the only way. It's just that, you're right. And you put it down here, is that doesn't mean I say yes without doubts. I actually have a lot of doubts, but I'm just like, you know what? Let's just see how this goes, because if anything, it's a growth opportunity. Within a month of me joining the Wealth Designers, Troy got me to do the video for the website. I was just voluntold. He's like, Dot, I think you'll be really good for this. And that's the thing about Troy as well, that he's always treated me like a long-term, like this was really like a long-term thing from the start. Like, I didn't have to be there for years to be worthy enough to be on the video of the website. He put me on there, and it was a whole day of filming, James, like learning lines, looking into the camera. Like, it's a short 1 minute video. But man, I tell you, I slept really well that night because I was just not sleeping for days before. And people have messaged me and go, oh, you're really natural in that. I'm like, I was afraid. Like, I was nervous. But okay, look, now I can say I've done, been in front of the camera, learned lines, pretended like I knew what I was talking about, and it's possible, right? So that's ticked off. I'm not changing career. I'm not going to be in front of the camera, but it's just one of those things that you're better for doing it, even though you're really nervous for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Dawn, thank you for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've wanted to speak with you for some time. I'm glad we could record something for Ensemble.
Yeah.
You just shine through even on the podcast. So everyone's going to get a sense of you and your attitude. We love it. Thank you for being part of Ensemble today.
Oh, thank you so much, James. And honestly, your content is so good. It just reminds everyone to just be yourself, record anywhere. That's a lesson you're giving me. That's a challenge. So if you see some content coming out,
just keep showing up.
Yes, keep showing up.
Thanks, Dawn.
Okay, thanks, James.